Midnight panic has a way of exposing every crack in a family. Last night was no different. Phones lit up across 3 states, group chats exploded, and by sunrise, one name was on everyone's lips: Erika Kirk. According to insiders, she was pacing the floor, blinds pulled tight, refusing to take calls, while a story she thought was buried began to surface in the most dangerous way possible. Not through a court document, not through the press, but through the words of someone who claims to have seen everything with her own eyes: Mikey, McCoy's wife. What began as a quiet whisper has now become a full-blown storm. A sudden leak, a late-night voice note, screenshots that no one was supposed to see, and at the center of it all stands the Charlie Kirk incident. An event the family worked tirelessly to keep sealed behind private doors. Now, those doors are wide open. Fans are shocked, friends are choosing sides, and the family is once again on the edge of collapse. Sources close to the situation say Erika never expected this. She believed the past was locked away, handled, controlled. But control is fragile when resentment has been simmering for years. Mikey's wife, long viewed as the quiet outsider, the one who smiled through gatherings and kept her distance from the spotlight, is now the voice driving this entire firestorm. Her sudden decision to speak has sent tremors through every relationship tied to the Kirks. Those closest to Erika describe a woman unraveling under the weight of fear. Not the fear of public criticism alone, but the fear of what else might surface if this leak gains momentum. Because the leaked details do not only hint at one chaotic night, they point to patterns. Patterns of silence, patterns of protection, patterns that, if proven true, could change how everyone sees the Kirks forever. And then there is Charlie, the name at the core of it all. The incident that was wrapped in secrecy is now being dissected with ruthless precision by online estranged relatives and former insiders who say they warned the family years ago that this day would come. Emotions ran high the moment those first details began circulating. Within minutes, hashtags trended. Within hours, camps had formed. And within a single night, a family that once stood together in public was left divided in private. What exactly did Mikey's wife reveal? Why now? And why does Erika appear to be in full panic mode as the story slips beyond her control? Was the leak an act of revenge, a desperate attempt at protecting someone, or the result of years of silence finally breaking under pressure? Tonight, every message, every look, every missing call carries weight. And as the truth inches closer to the surface, one thing is already clear. This is no longer just a private family matter. This is a public reckoning. And the fallout may be far more devastating than anyone is prepared for. The night the leak began, Erika was sitting alone in the living room with the lights off, television muted, phone in her hand, refreshing the same private message thread over and over as if staring at it could change what had already been sent out into the world. Her chest felt tight. Every unread notification felt like a threat. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, but inside her home, panic had already taken root. She had spent years perfecting the art of calm in public and control in private. Tonight, both were slipping fast. Across town, Mikey, McCoy's wife, whose name had stayed out of family headlines for years, sat at her kitchen table with a cup of untouched tea growing cold in front of her. Her hands still trembled from what she had just done. She had not meant for it to blow up this quickly. In her mind, the message had been meant for one person only. A warning, a final attempt to make someone listen before things went too far. Instead, screenshots traveled faster than fear ever could. Once shared, they became unstoppable. By the time Erika's phone finally rang, it was already too late. She did not need to answer to know what the call meant. The truth had escaped, and the truth, once loose, has no loyalty. She answered on the third ring. Her voice was steady, but only just. "Tell me you did not send it," she said. On the other end, a long silence. Then a quiet breath. "I told you years ago this day would come," Mikey's wife replied. Erika closed her eyes. "You promised you would never speak about that night." "I promised I would protect what was right," came the answer, "not what was convenient for you." That single exchange, short and restrained, carried the weight of a war that had been building for years. The Charlie Kirk incident was never supposed to see the light of day. It had been buried under family agreements, sudden relocations, carefully staged explanations, and money that changed hands without leaving a trail. Everyone involved had told themselves the same story. It was handled. It was done. It was over. It was none of those things. Inside Erika's mind, old memories surged without warning. The night in question had begun as a routine family gathering. Laughter had filled the house. Drinks had flowed freely. Charlie had arrived late, already tense, already carrying whatever storm had followed him that day. Arguments had been brief at first, whispered away from the main room. No one wanted a scene. No one wanted to spoil the carefully built image of unity. Mikey's wife had noticed everything. She had seen the looks exchanged across the room. The way Erika's smile tightened when certain words were spoken. The way Charlie's patience thinned with every passing minute. She had gone to the kitchen for water and heard raised voices through the wall. Not shouting yet, but sharp, heated, the kind of tones that precede disaster. Later that night, after guests had begun to leave and the house had thinned, the argument finally erupted where no one could deny it. Voices rose, accusations were hurled, old grudges surfaced, and the moment that would later be labeled an incident unfolded in ways no press release could ever soften. Only a handful of people knew the full sequence of what happened. Fewer still knew what was done afterward to make it vanish. Now, all these years later, one person had decided that silence was no longer a virtue. Erika's phone vibrated again. This time, it was her sister. She hesitated but answered. "Have you seen what is spreading online?" her sister asked. Panic clear in her voice. Erika swallowed. "I have. Is it true?" came the next question, delivered carefully but weighted with fear. Erika closed her eyes. "Not the way they are telling it." "Then what is the truth?" her sister pressed. Erika said nothing. Some truths, once spoken, cannot be contained again. Within hours, fans had started dissecting every line that had leaked. They traced time, compared past interviews, pulled up old photos from that same evening. What once seemed like harmless family snapshots now carried shadows and questions. Why had Charlie looked so distant? Why had Erika avoided the camera after that night? Why had Mikey's wife gone silent at gatherings for months afterward? The internet does not forget. It only waits. Mikey himself learned about the leak through a call from a producer friend before his wife could even speak to him directly. He stormed into the house, phone in hand, face flushed with fury. "What did you tell them?" he demanded the moment he saw her. She stood from her chair slowly, bracing herself. "I told the truth." "You told a version of the truth," he shot back. "You just turned our family into a spectacle." "Your family turned itself into a spectacle the night they decided silence was more important than justice," she said quietly. They stared at each other across the room. Years of unspoken tension finally given a voice. Mikey had spent his life balancing loyalty to his blood with loyalty to his marriage. Every secret he had kept chipped away at that balance. Now, the structure had cracked. "Do you know what this will do to Erika?" he asked. She met his eyes without flinching. "Do you know what that night did to me?" For the first time, Mikey had no answer. Back at Erika's home, friends began to arrive unannounced, drawn by concern and curiosity in equal measure. Some came to support her. Others came to quietly assess where they stood in what was quickly becoming a public divide. The living room filled with low voices and nervous glances at ringing phones. No one mentioned the leak directly at first, but it lived in the room with them, heavy and unavoidable. One friend finally broke the silence. "People are saying you covered for Charlie." Erika's jaw tightened. "People say many things. They are also saying Mikey's wife has proof." Erika rose from her seat. "She has feelings, not proof." The room grew quiet. A few guests exchanged uneasy looks. They all knew that in scandals like this, feelings were often enough to destroy reputations. Charlie himself had vanished from public view. Survival. Mikey's wife had lived for years with the weight of that night sitting on her chest. Every family dinner, every forced smile, every holiday photo that played happy while her memories replayed fear and confusion. She had watched Erika manage the narrative again and again, painting unity for the outside world while fractures deepened beneath the surface. She had watched Charlie receive shield after shield, and she had watched herself become invisible in the process. The message she sent had not been impulsive. It had been postponed for years. As dawn broke, the scale of what had been unleashed became impossible to ignore. News channels picked up the trending topic. Commentators speculated in cautious tones. Former acquaintances hinted at knowing more. With each hour, the pressure multiplied. Erika sat alone again as the sun crept through the curtains she had forgotten to close. Exhaustion pressed into her shoulders. Fear sat heavy in her stomach. The past she believed she had mastered was now dictating the present. Somewhere across town, Mikey's wife watched the same sunrise from her window. Eyes swollen from tears she had fought through the night. She did not feel victorious. She felt exposed, but beneath the fear was a strange sense of release. The truth was no longer hers to carry alone. And Charlie, wherever he was, had yet to speak a single word. The silence from him grew louder by the minute. The silence from him grew louder by the minute. As the morning stretched into afternoon, Erika's phone did not stop buzzing. Every vibration made her flinch. Producers, bloggers, distant relatives, former friends. Even people she barely recognized were reaching out, all asking the same thing in different ways. What really happened that night? She ignored most of them. Answering one felt like opening a door that could never again be closed. By midday, the first so-called insiders began to speak anonymously to the press. Small fragments appeared online, carefully worded but sharp enough to draw blood. Phrases like heated argument, intoxication, and physical confrontation began to circulate. None of them told the full story, yet each one added a layer of menace to the public narrative forming around her family. Erika knew how these storms worked. Once the version of events left her control, it would grow beyond anything she could manage. She had spent years shaping public perception with precision. Now, perception was shaping her. Across town, Mikey sat alone in his car in the driveway, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel as if it were the only solid thing left in his world. He had not gone inside since the argument with his wife. Every word she had spoken replayed in his mind. Her voice had not sounded angry. It had sounded tired. That frightened him more than any shouting ever could. His phone lit up with a message from Charlie. A single line. "We need to talk." Mikey stared at it for a long moment before replying. "Where?" The answer came quickly. "Now send the address." Charlie arrived 40 minutes later at a quiet rental house Mikey kept under a friend's name. He looked nothing like the confident figure the public knew. His eyes were rimmed red. His shoulders stooped under a weight he had carried for years and never truly escaped. Mikey let him in without a word. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table in heavy silence. Finally, Mikey spoke. "It's everywhere." Charlie nodded. "I know. She's talking." Charlie closed his eyes. "I was afraid she would." "Then why did you let this go on?" Mikey snapped. Charlie's jaw tightened. "Because every time I thought it was buried, she looked at me like it wasn't. Like it was still alive." Mikey leaned back in his chair, anger and dread mixing in his chest. "What actually happened that night?" he asked quietly now, not as an accusation, as a question he had never fully dared to ask. Charlie hesitated. Years of carefully constructed avoidance rose up in him. "It started as an argument," he said at last. "Voices were raised. Things were said that should never have been said." "That's not new," Mikey replied. "It escalated," Charlie continued, eyes fixed on the table. "I lost control for a moment." "A moment?" Mikey felt his chest tighten. "What kind of moment?" Charlie did not answer immediately. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "The kind you can't undo." The room felt smaller. Mikey ran a hand over his face. He had protected Charlie out of loyalty, out of fear, out of habit. Now he wondered what, exactly, he had been protecting him from. "Does Erika know everything?" Mikey asked. Charlie let out a short, humorless laugh. "Erika knows what she needed to know." Mikey understood that answer far too well. While the men sat in that quiet reckoning, Erika faced her own confrontation. Mikey's wife arrived at her door without calling. Erika opened it with visible surprise that quickly hardened into restraint. They stood inches apart, two women bound by one night and divided by everything that followed. "So you came in person this time," Erika said. "Screens don't tell the whole truth," Mikey's wife replied. "Neither do you," Erika shot back. "But I tell the part you tried to erase." Erika stepped aside to let her in. The air between them felt charged, thick with years of unspoken resentment. They sat across from each other in the same room where Erika had once hosted cheerful family gatherings that now felt like distant illusions. "You had no right," Erika said. "I had every right," Mikey's wife answered. "That night changed my life." Yours continued as if nothing happened. Erika's eyes flashed. "You think I wasn't affected? You think I don't see how you rebuilt everything around yourself?" Came the reply. "Careers, image, alliances, all while pretending that what happened was a misunderstanding." "It was complicated," Erika said, voice wavering for the first time. "So was my silence," Mikey's wife replied, "and I carried it alone." Erika stood abruptly, pacing again. "You are tearing apart a family over a version of events frozen in your fear." "I am tearing apart a family built on denial," Mikey's wife said calmly. "There is a difference." Outside, cameras had already begun to gather. Neighbors whispered, strangers lingered. The private world Erika had so tightly controlled was now leaking before her eyes. "What do you want?" Erika asked at last. "I want Charlie to speak," came the answer without hesitation. Erika laughed bitterly. "You think that will help you? I think it will finally stop helping only him." The word struck harder than any shouted accusation. For years, Charlie had been the unspoken center of every quiet arrangement. His temper excused, his mistakes softened, his presence protected at all costs. The family had bent itself around him in ways no one openly discussed. And now, the structure bent too far. As night fell again, Charlie finally broke his silence with a short statement released through a representative, vague, careful, denying wrongdoing, while acknowledging a regrettable family conflict. It satisfied no one. Fans were shocked by how little it addressed. Critics accused him of hiding behind legal language. Supporters praised him for staying composed. The divide cut straight through his audience, just as it had through his family. Erika watched the statement on her screen and knew it had changed nothing. The comments were merciless. Questions multiplied instead of fading. The internet was not interested in diplomacy. It demanded blood or truth, and often confused the two. Mikey's wife read the statement as well, hands shaking not with fear but with frustration. "That's it," she whispered. "That's all he's willing to give." Mikey stood behind her, silent, torn between his wife and his brother by blood. For the first time, he felt the full cost of the choices he had made in favor of peace. That night, he did something he had avoided for years. He called Erika. She answered cautiously. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want this to stop," Mikey said. "So do I," Erika replied. "Then tell Charlie to tell everything," he said. Erika exhaled slowly. "You know he won't." "Then it won't stop," Mikey said simply. They ended the call with no resolution, only the shared knowledge that the storm was far from over. Hours later, another leak appeared. This time, it was not a message. It was an audio clip, distorted but recognizable. Voices argued. A glass shattered. A woman gasped. The internet exploded anew. Experts debated its authenticity. Fans dissected every second. Erika listened to it once and dropped her phone as if it were burning her palm. That sound had not existed outside memory for years. Now, it existed everywhere. Mikey's wife did not deny releasing it when asked by reporters. "I warned her," she said in a brief statement. "I warned all of them that silence would not last forever." Charlie could no longer hide. His car was spotted at the edge of town the next morning, forcing its way in. Somewhere else in the city, Mikey's wife lay awake, staring at the ceiling, torn between dread and relief. She had set something into motion that could no longer be called back. She wondered if she would be strong enough for what came next. And Charlie, trapped between his past and a future that suddenly looked unforgiving, realized that the night he had spent years running from was finally catching him. The truth was no longer waiting behind closed doors. It was knocking, louder with every passing hour. The next morning brought no relief. Erika woke to notifications flooding in from every corner: news outlets, social media alerts, private messages. The story had grown exponentially overnight. Hashtags that had barely existed the previous evening were now trending nationwide. Screenshots of old conversations were circulating, each edited slightly to provoke outrage. Every image, every phrase, every fragment of memory she had hoped remained private was now public. Dissected, debated, and sensationalized. She felt her stomach twist in knots as she scrolled, unable to stop herself. Across town, Mikey's wife watched the chaos unfold from a safe distance. Her phone had not stopped either, but she greeted each message with calm determination. She had expected this, planned for it in a way, though not fully anticipating the emotional fallout. She leaned back, eyes on the rising sun, taking a deep breath. She had finally taken control, even if the cost was immense. The family she had once feared now seemed exposed, and she knew this was only the beginning. Erika tried to respond to reporters, to friends, to distant relatives, but each message felt inadequate. Every word she typed seemed to unravel before it even left her fingertips. The narrative had taken a life of its own. Family members started calling, their voices laced with fear, judgment, or curiosity. Some offered support, others demanded explanations, and a few, unbidden, accused her of failing to protect the family. "This isn't just a leak," one cousin said over the phone, voice trembling. "It's a full-on invasion. Everyone is watching." "Erika, I know," she whispered, pacing again. "But what am I supposed to do? Control it? It's already gone." The day continued with escalating intensity. Charlie remained unreachable, and his absence fueled speculation. Journalists and online sleuths dug deeper, finding old interviews, photos from family events, and social media posts that could be tied to the night in question. Each discovery added fuel to the fire, and Erika felt herself slipping further under the weight of it all. Mikey's wife, meanwhile, maintained her poise. She issued small statements that were careful but undeniably pointed. Each phrase suggested she had been truthful all along, that Erika's narrative was incomplete, and that Charlie's silence only amplified the questions. She did not gloat. She did not shout. She simply let the facts speak. Friends and allies began choosing sides. Some aligned with Erika, claiming she had always been the victim of circumstance. forced into silence by a family obsessed with image. Others sided with Mikey's wife, praising her courage and warning that the family's carefully constructed facade had finally cracked. The household lines became battle lines, invisible yet impenetrable. As night fell, tensions escalated further. Erika's phone rang constantly, each call increasing her anxiety. She had scheduled a private meeting with a trusted friend to strategize damage control, but even that felt futile. Outside, the media presence had grown. Drones hovered, and street corners were crowded with reporters and camera crews hoping for a glimpse of the unfolding drama. Inside, Erika and Mikey sat in silence for long stretches, neither knowing what to say. Mikey's worry was palpable. "She's not just leaking details," he said quietly. "She's dismantling everything we've built." "I know," Erika replied, voice trembling. "I never thought she'd go this far." "It's more than just going far," Mikey said. "It's unraveling us." Even family friends were divided. Some tried to mediate, offering counsel and advice, but their words often fell flat, drowned out by the roar of speculation and scandal. The room felt smaller with every passing moment, the tension thick enough to choke on. Charlie's absence became a silent antagonist. His failure to speak or clarify only fed the frenzy. Whispers on social media suggested he had fled the city, while others claimed he was hiding in a private location, perhaps even fearful for his own safety. Erika knew the truth, or what she believed to be the truth, but she understood how others could interpret it differently. As the clock ticked past midnight again, Erika found herself standing by the window, watching the flashing lights outside. She could see figures moving, cameras turning, microphones raised. The life she had tried to protect from public scrutiny was now entirely exposed. She could almost hear the world breathing down her neck, hungry for every secret, every misstep. Mikey sat on the couch, silent. He had reached out to Charlie one more time, a brief, tense conversation, but it had yielded nothing. The brother he had defended for years now seemed untouchable, yet constantly scrutinized, a paradox that gnawed at him. Meanwhile, Mikey's wife prepared her next move carefully. She was strategic, deliberate, calculating how to present information without overplaying her hand. She understood the dynamics of the family and the media and was using them to expose what she considered long-buried truths. She did not aim to destroy for pleasure, but to reveal for justice, or at least her version of it. The following morning brought renewed chaos. Videos, clips, and messages were circulating that appeared to corroborate the leaked details. Some were authentic, some were fabricated, and many existed somewhere in between. Erika felt panic rising again. She had hoped for containment, for control, for quiet. Now the story had a life of its own, spreading faster than she could ever manage. Friends began showing up at her door, some with genuine concern, others to witness firsthand the unraveling she could no longer prevent. Each arrival brought new perspectives, new demands, new questions. Erika answered some, ignored others, but the sense of invasion was inescapable. The privacy she had so carefully curated had evaporated overnight. Mikey's wife maintained distance, sending occasional messages to gauge the fallout, noting which family members were choosing sides. She watched the chaos with a mix of apprehension and satisfaction. The long years of silence had ended, and while she did not feel victorious, she felt unburdened. The family's secrets, once contained, now walked freely among the public, unstoppable and relentless. Erika's fear and desperation mounted. She realized that nothing she said or did could stem the tide. She had lived years in preparation for crises, but this exposure was different. The rules she had relied on no longer applied. Every relationship, every carefully managed image, every unspoken truth was now under scrutiny. As night fell once more, the family dynamic reached a tipping point. Arguments erupted over calls and texts, private confrontations became inevitable, and the weight of the past collided violently with the present. Alliances shifted, betrayals surfaced, and loyalties were tested in ways no one had predicted. The storm had fully arrived, and there was no shelter. Erika sat alone in the dimly lit living room, phone in hand, heart racing. She reflected on every choice, every secret kept, every lie told to protect someone or something. She understood now that control was an illusion. The past she had worked to protect had returned with a vengeance, unstoppable, unrelenting, and merciless. Somewhere in the city, Mikey's wife finally allowed herself a deep breath. She had initiated a chain of events that could never be undone, and yet, there was clarity in her action. Truth, distorted or not, had been released, and the power dynamics had shifted irreversibly. She knew the family would never be the same, and Charlie, still silent, remained the centerpiece of a story spiraling out of control. A living reminder that the past, no matter how carefully concealed, has a way of catching up in the most dramatic and unavoidable ways imaginable. And now, viewers, the question is yours. What do you think really happened that night? Do you believe Erika's version, or do you side with Mikey's wife and the details she leaked? Charlie's silence has left everyone guessing, and the family is more divided than ever. This story is far from over, and every comment you leave could spark the next twist in this unfolding drama. If you want to stay on top of every shocking update, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment. Share your thoughts below. Who do you trust? Who do you think is hiding the truth? And what will happen next in this tangled emotional saga? Your opinions matter, and they might just shape what comes next.